The Phanteks Enthoo Evolv ATX tempered glass case has served me quite well since I first switched to it back in 2017. I initially made the switch to this case because I just wasn't happy with NZXT and the H440 that I had previously picked. And this came down to a number of things that I've discussed plenty of times in the past. And this case has served me very well. It's very good, it's solid, and obviously some things have changed over the course of time. The front panel has been changed thanks to some mods from Mod by Mods to help improve the airflow, especially once I decided that at some point I was going to put a more elaborate cooling system in, as you can see with the EK Fluid gaming kit. Overall, I've enjoyed it. Now, there are some shortcomings with it. Obviously, the tempered glass model is not new, and getting in and out of this system isn't as efficient as it used to be, especially now that Phanteks has gone to swinging panel doors as opposed to the thumb screw system. If you remember my EK Fluid gaming kit video from last January, you'll remember I mentioned that the hard drive situation wasn't great because I had to remove this hard drive tray, the hard drive mount in the bottom, to make this radiator fit. Now, this was a minor shortcoming and one that I was willing to deal with and have dealt with. But with me moving my primary gaming system from the Evolv X into the Enthoo 719, I thought it was a good time to take this bad boy apart and move it into the Evolv X and give it a little bit of a more modern refresh. Additionally, we're going to change some of the fittings on here from the standard fittings to the 45 and 90 degree angle fittings, which would help clean up some of these tube runs that I just find so horrifying. And we're also going to go ahead and give it a little bit of an upgrade with the cables, with some Pro Series cables instead of these standard cable mod cables that I went with back when I changed this build in the first place. The final thing we're going to do is we're going to replace all the EK Vardar fans with the PC Cooler 5-in-1 kit. And the reason I'm doing this mostly is because my daughter is the one who uses this computer primarily. She uses it for gaming, and I'm going to allow her to use the remote to change the colors to how she sees fit. And we're going to give it a little bit of a digital spruce. The Evolv X is digital RGB, this case is standard RGB. So we're gonna give her one of my digital RGB strips, and I'm gonna try and weasel the longer neon RGB strip in to this build as much as I possibly can. The final thing I want to mention is that in that original EK Fluid gaming kit video, I had talked about how there would be a follow-up video talking about the results that I had found after switching to this setup, and I never did that. So very briefly, it did exactly what I wanted it to do. Temperatures actually dropped from using the X62 Kraken from about 35 to 38 degrees idle to actually closer to 30 to 33 degrees. And that's just simply the byproduct of using a dual radiator system to cool just the CPU. This does not include the graphics card, as the Strix 1070 does not have, EK never made a block for that for the EK Fluid gaming kit. That's gonna stay under air, and that's fine. You don't hear the graphics card anyway. But it did exactly, as I said, it did exactly what I wanted it to do. It actually dropped temperatures a little bit, and the fans never ramp up, even under any kind of load. So the whole reason I even did it in the first place is because I found when I was using this system to run a live stream with the medium encoder, the fans would just kind of go up and down real hard because the Kraken was just not very efficient. And at the end of the day, it does do a better job cooling. So when the system is running at a load and hitting 70 degrees Celsius like the X62 Kraken was, it's doing it with a 35 to 40% fan speed, which is about 1,000 RPM, versus the Kraken fans, which were at 100%, which is about 1,800 to 2,000 RPM. So it reduced the noise under load, and it actually reduced the temperatures at idle, and even a little bit under load as well. The Kraken actually ran at about 75 degrees Celsius. This is closer to 70. But it's time to give it an upgrade, so that's what today's video is all about. We are going to take these parts out of here. We're going to drain this loop as best we can. We're going to move it into the Evolv X, and we're going to see how that looks. So let's get going. And so here we have the finished product in all of its glory. The Evolv X is still a really nice case. I really still enjoy it. Building in this was about as good as it possibly could have been, considering my familiarity with it. No real hiccups along the way in terms of getting the loop configured and getting everything kind of connected up. Obviously, the use of angled fittings made things a lot easier this time, as you probably have seen from some of the footage. I've got a 90 degree there, I've got a 45 degree there, I've got another 45 going into the CPU block, a 90 coming out, and then another 45 coming out of the top radiator. This front one could still be a little bit better if I had an extender plus a 90 going straight down, but its load's better than what it was with the previous version of this build, from what you saw early on in this video. In fact, really the only issue I've run into is actually self-inflicted. When I went to go power on the system, I actually realized that I had probably done something wrong. As I hit the power switch, the LEDs on the PCI expansion slots, they flashed red and the system didn't boot. So I hit the start button, the power button that's on the motherboard, this X99A-2, and it went straight into BIOS. And I realized that all my overclocking settings were gone. Didn't think much of it, put the overclock back in, saved a profile this time because I had never done that actually previously for some reason, and it got hung up. Wouldn't completely boot, got actually stuck on code 61. So I hit the power button again, lights flashed red again, and that's when I realized I was doing something very stupid. I actually had the power switch connected to 2 pins above where it should have been, which essentially was acting as a clear CMOS, and it was actually what was causing the overclocking settings to disappear. So I re-entered them back. Well, I went ahead and loaded up the profile that I had saved and got stuck on code 61 again. But the third time it actually booted into Windows. And I have a sneaking suspicion that the code 61 is actually being caused by one of the USB devices. As I was switching the full-size Stream Deck with the mini Stream Deck over here, and I had plugged the mini Stream Deck in before booting it the first time, I think that might be what's causing the code 61 error, because that can be related to USB devices. So I've unplugged it for now, and I'm going to see how this goes. If it continues to do it, it's something else. All in all though, once it gets into Windows, everything is fine. My daughter was playing Minecraft for quite a while without any kind of hiccups while watching YouTube. So the system itself is fine once it gets in. The fans are doing an adequate job. It is worth noting that the temperatures have gone up a couple of degrees when idling. I think that's a pretty good indication of how good the panel mods that Mod My Mods makes for the Enthoo Evolv ATX really do work. This isn't quite as open as the Enthoo Evolv modified panels are, but it's still pretty good. I mean, we're still seeing 34, 35, 36C at idle across the cores. So it's nothing terribly alarming, and low temperatures don't seem to do anything differently. I have been playing around with the fan curve a little bit to see if that makes any kind of a difference. It doesn't seem to do anything in terms of lowering the temp, so I think it's really just the panels. The Evolv X is good. It's a solid case. The hinge door is a substantial improvement over the thumb screw and makes getting in there much easier. The Pro Series cables look so much better in there. The build itself looks good. I like the way the angled fittings have helped kind of clean up the runs a little bit. Ultimately, the PC cooler fans are doing the job that I need them to do. They're cooling adequately enough, and the system is, once you get into Windows, is pretty well functional. So that's gonna do it for this video. Hope you enjoyed the process of moving my build from the Enthoo Evolv ATX into the Evolv X. I've talked about changing my primary system to the AMD Ryzen 3900X, which would then put the 8700K in here. And I would retire the 5820K and this motherboard for the short term anyway, until I discover another use for it. But we'll see how that goes. It's a long way away, may not even happen. That's it. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions or comments or anything that you would have liked to have seen done differently, and I will catch you guys in the next one.